Today we're going to be learning section 1.6, subtracting integers. So we're on page 34. Page 34. No, not yet. Okay, so here we go, guys. Example 1. Again, I'm looking at the signs of the integers. So is 4 positive or negative? Positive. Is 10 positive or negative? Negative. It's negative because every number has a sign. The sign's in front of the number. You say that's a subtraction sign. It's the same thing. So since they are different signs, I subtract their absolute values and I take the sign of the greater absolute value. 10 is larger and it's negative, so my answer is -6. All right? Now, let's look at the second example. 7 minus -5. Here's where the double signs can get you in trouble. Because if you don't deal with them first, you actually come up with the wrong answer. A double negative changes to a positive. It cancels out. So this double negative here changes to 7 plus 5, and now my answer is 12. If I don't deal with the double negative first, then I'm going to get the wrong answer. All right, now with that being said, I want you to work the third one. Nope. 7. -2 plus 9. Guys, your double negative changes to a positive, and you get 7. All right, now let's look at example 2. Example 2 is very similar to example 1, except example 2 is I'm substituting the value for the variable and then solving. So on example A, it says x minus -40. So I plug in -9 for x minus -40. Well, what do I need to do first? Take away the double negative, right? I need to deal with my double sign and rewrite my expression. -9 plus 40. Now do I have same sign or different? Different. So subtract and take to get 31. Now is my answer positive or negative 31? Positive because 40 is bigger. All right, now let's look at B. B is a little different. 7 minus is already part of the original expression. Now I need to plug in a -9. Well, when I plug in a -9 and I'm already subtracting, what does that turn into?
7 plus 9.
It turns into a double negative, so it's going to be 7 plus 9 is 16. All right, go ahead and try to do the third one on your own. Okay, so when I plug it in, double -9 minus 10. All right, so it changes to a positive 9 minus 10, -1. -1. All right, who got it right? -1. Okay, now I want to go ahead and work a few classwork problems. But I don't think you have it on your page, so I'll go ahead and put them up on the screen. And so I'll pause the recording, and then we'll come back and work the last example. All right, so in example 3, we're evaluating change in elevation, change in temperature are two common changes that we're looking at. So I'm looking at two things here. I want to find the total change. So when I go from a negative elevation to a positive elevation, I want to think of it in terms of a number line. Okay, so here's 0. All right, if I'm in -150, how many units do I go from -150 to 0? 150. Then how many do I go to go from 0 to 280? 280. So it makes sense to add them together to find the total change. Does that make sense? Okay, so I go 150 to get to 0, and then another 280. I add them together to get 430. Now let me ask you this. It's 430 feet. Is it positive or negative? It is positive because I went from -150 to positive 280. So that's a positive change in elevation. Now what about B? This is now I'm going from 140 to -380 again. So I'm at 140. How many from 140 to 0? 140. How many from 0 to -380? 380. So now I need to add 140 plus 380 to find the total change. So let's first find what is the change in elevation. When I add them together, it's going to be 520.
And then it'll be a negative.
Okay, now do you think, that's my next question. Is it positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative, because I went from a positive down to a negative, so it's negative 520 feet. All right, I want you, well, actually, we're going to do C. Now on C, okay, on C, they're both negative. So I'm only on the left side of 0. I go from negative 80 up to negative 40, but I'm still on this side of 0. So I can't add them together. I need to subtract them. I go from negative 80 to negative 40. How many units did I move closer to 0?
Not 60.
Not 60. 80 to 40, subtracted 80 to 40, it is 40. 40. Now, is it positive or negative? I went from negative 80, which is farther from 0, a little closer to 0 to negative 40, so it is a positive change in elevation. Oh, I'm sorry. That's 140. Okay, sorry. I went from negative 80, but guys, it's still the same thing. It is 60. I went from negative 80 down to negative 140. So again, it is a change of a negative 60 feet. Do you see, though, what I would say? Okay, do you see what I'm saying, though, that you subtract them? You don't add them together because you're still on the left side of 0. You're not crossing 0. You go from negative 80 down farther to negative 140. Okay, so it's a negative 60 feet change in elevation. Now, with temperature, it's the same exact concept, except now I'm just dealing with degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. So I go from negative 28, well, how many units from, or how many degrees from negative 28 to 0? 28. And then how many from 0 to 47? 47. So I add them both together to find my total change, which is what?
75.
It's going to be 75, positive or negative?
Positive.
It's just going to be positive. 75 degrees Celsius change. Okay? Now, what about if I go from 78 to negative 65? Again, 78 to 0 is a change of 78. 0 to negative 65 is another change of 65. So I add them together to get
143. Negative 143.
Okay, 143 degrees Celsius, positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative, because I went from a positive down to a negative number, so it's a negative change. All right? If you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 1.6.